I'm Jamie Kudla, president of Terry Tech Computer Consultants. Thank you for joining me for my podcast, Better, Faster, Stronger, where we help move New York Metro businesses forward with tips on motivation, leadership, management, and innovation. Joining us this week is Joe Kenner. Joe is the president and CEO of Greyston in Yonkers. How you doing, Joe?
How are you? Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time out to talk to me and share some of your thoughts and input on what's made you better, faster, stronger over all these years.
Looking forward to the conversation.
You're a pretty young looking guy, but we were talking a couple of weeks ago and you made mention of all this experience that you had. So this clearly isn't your first career. Maybe tell me a little bit about yourself and what you've been doing, your professional career and how you've grown.
Well, I appreciate the young looking guy comment, so thank you.
Well, I'll take it.
Yeah, I tell people all the time that I've had a pretty extensive career, and one of the interesting things about my career is you just can't connect my first job to where I am now, because it's quite varied, to say the very least. I started out as an insurance underwriter for financial institutions for Chubb & Son right out of college, and did that for about 3 years. Moved into risk management as an insurance analyst at Lehman Brothers, which no longer exists, was a great investment bank at the time. Was there for almost 3 years as well before going to PepsiCo, and that did several different stints there in capital markets, risk management, sales strategy, and around 2010 left corporate America and Wall Street altogether to get into government at both the local level. I was in elected office and appointed level, serving our county executive as a senior advisor, and my last gig being a senior deputy commissioner of social services for Westchester County before coming to Greyston. In February of 2018, I started actually as the vice president of programs and partnerships of Greyston, and was appointed to president and CEO this past April, which is almost a year.
Wow.
Hard to believe, but it's been quite the ride, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. I have no regrets. As I said, the career is varied, but everything that I've learned throughout those years has prepared me for the job I now have.
Yeah, I can imagine, going through all those different types of industries, you get a different perspective and you learn a lot along the way. You said that you went from corporate America and you went into local government. What made you make that change and that switch?
It was just part of who I am. I've always had a strong sense of service to my community and being a part of the change that was happening. And I live in Portchester. So at that time, initially what brought me into government was we were putting together a comprehensive plan for the village of Portchester. So it's kind of the roadmap, if you will, of what you want your village to look like, from your downtown to your residential areas. What's that postcard look like? That's pretty much what a comprehensive plan is. So I was a part of an advisory committee at the time to develop this comprehensive plan. Also at that time, the board had 2 vacancies on the village board, and the board was looking to appoint people to fill those positions. So, being the person that I am, I put my hat in the ring to be appointed to one of those positions. And it was 2007, actually, I was appointed to the board in Portchester, becoming the first African-American to be on the board ever in Portchester, along with another colleague, Greg Adams. So it was the first time in the village's history they had African-American on the board. That was my appointed office. 3 years later, I actually ran for the position and won, and became the first African-American elected to the position. So a year or so later, I was appointed deputy mayor. So it was great, and that brought me into government. That brought me into politics, where I met someone who would later become county executive, Rob Astorino, and later joined his administration as senior advisor, and then, as I said, as deputy commissioner. So it's always been my a desire to serve, to see transformation happen, whether it's a corporation or a business, but actually people, which makes my role here at Greyston even more rewarding.
So obviously working at Greyston is a full-time job and then some, I'm sure. Do you still participate in local politics?
Outside of voting, no. I,
Yeah,
I,
right.
I gladly left government in 2016 and devoted my time to just my private sector experience. And again, I don't want to do it again, but it was a very gratifying and rewarding experience. But no
Yeah, and
desires at this point.
it's got to be a full-time position too, if you're
Yes,
really getting
yes.
something.
They
Because
say it's part-time, but it's not.
yeah, and you can't dabble in it. I mean, you really have to commit, if you're going to help move things forward and really
Absolutely.
understand it and be a part of it. So yeah, just time constraints, I'm sure, was part of that decision. So tell me a little bit about Greyston and what you guys do there. I know you have an interesting business there, and I'm sure my listeners would like a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, Greyston is the hidden gem of Westchester. I say this all the time because
Hmm.
it is quite an incredible organization and just fascinating entity that's right here in Southwest Yonkers that not many people know about, but I'm
I
going
was
to do
going to say that to interrupt you
my
there.
very best to change that.
I know not many people know that it exists, right?
Yes, yeah. So we are a social enterprise. We are New York State's. So we have two entities. There's Greyston Bakery and there's Greyston Foundation. And Greyston Bakery is New York State's first benefit corporation, which essentially means we have a triple bottom line focused on environment, social, and obviously fiscal, just to make sure, and also just transparency as a B Corp. We at every board meeting, we talk about all of our different metrics, how we're doing in each of those areas: environment, social, fiscal, and being transparent about our operations. But Greyston Bakery, the amazing product that we have is our brownies, brownie inclusions, as well as our single serve brownies. So anytime you've had a Ben & Jerry's chocolate fudge brownie pint or half baked or brownie batter core or Netflix and chilled, you are actually eating a Greyston product. And that's the amazing thing that people don't know about. The other piece to that is the folks that make the brownies.
Yep.
We have a revolutionary way of hiring folks. It's something that we want to see replicated all over. It's called open hiring. And essentially what that means is the first person, all you have to do is put your name on a list to be employed. And when the next job becomes available to be a bakery apprentice, you get the job. We don't do background checks. We don't do any type of interviews or resumes. You get the job and you report for orientation. And that's actually your first day on the job. And to understand that process, you have to really understand our founder, Bernie Glassman, who founded Greyston back in 1982. So we've been at this for almost 40 years. And Bernie's quest was, how do we create more thriving communities? How do we alleviate poverty, particularly here in Southwest Yonkers? And Bernie saw it, particularly at this time in the 80s. The economy was a challenging situation. There was homelessness. AIDS was at its height. He wanted to find a solution to that, and something that's practical, something that can really help lift up, elevate humanity. And he saw a job as being the first step to putting folks on a path to a thriving life. And essentially that's how open hiring got started, where he would literally pull people off the streets to work with him. And this is Zen Buddhist community in Riverdale section of the Bronx. At that time, they were baking cakes to support themselves. And he would have folks off the street helping them out, giving them skills, reporting to work, taking instruction, learning something that they could apply to another job somewhere else down the line. But that was essentially how open hiring came about. It was, how can we give people hope? How can we give them an opportunity to turn their lives around? Because a lot of the folks that we hire then, as we do now, have some type of barrier to employment. It could be justice involvement. It could be, homelessness, mental health challenges, substance abuse challenges, opportunity youth, whatever it might be. A lot of those folks want to work. A lot of those folks have a strong work ethic,
Right.
but for whatever reason, there's something on their record, or it's just something in their presentation. They just don't know how to write a resume. They don't know how to interview. A lot of folks we all don't start the game with the same social capital as everybody else. So you may not have the family at home preparing you for the interview or telling you which career you should go into, or here's how you deal with conflict resolution. A lot of folks don't have that type of social capital. We provide all of that here. And it's our way of elevating humanity. It's our way of making a dent in what is a very large figure of folks across this country who have some type of barrier to employment. We've quantified it at about 10 million people have some type of barrier, And small Greyston in Southwest Yonkers, we're making a contribution to at least solving that problem of poverty and solving that problem of bringing folks into the mainstream, giving them a job opportunity to at least start the process.
Wow, from such humble beginnings, like you said, almost 40 years ago, almost sounds like it was, started with, almost a grassroots, getting some people together and putting together
Truly.
some. And how big is Greyston today? How many people do you employ, between the bakery and the foundation?
Yeah, so the bakery has about 100 people, 70 of whom are the open hires. And what is amazing about this group of folks, over 40,000 pounds of brownies are being generated every day to support the global supply chain of Ben & Jerry's, Unilever, also providing brownie single serves in Whole Foods and places like Kava and other outlets and channels. So those folks are now essential, which is quite a feat for this population, because at one time they were deemed unemployable, and they were truly essential in 2020 because we operated throughout the year. At the height of the pandemic, we were going strong, and thankfully, and kudos to the team at the bakery, didn't lose one employee due to COVID. The team came together and, had the place retrofitted, instituted protocols and procedures to make sure everybody could be safe and healthy throughout the pandemic. To this day, those procedures are in place. But every day, we're essentially a 7-day-a-week operation.
Are you 24/7?
24/6. The seventh day is usually for cleaning. Just cleaning the facility to get ready for the next day and the next week. But yes, it's full time. It's tough work. I don't like to sugarcoat. It is a manufacturing facility.
No pun intended, right?
Yeah, it is a manufacturing facility. It's called a bakery, but it's 12-hour shifts.
Sure.
Heavy lifting with 50-pound bags of sugar and flour. But it's a great opportunity for folks who are just looking to get a fresh start and contribute. And all of our guys and gals are just doing an amazing job of supporting our customers. So that's the bakery. And I forgot to mention the foundation. So the foundation, we're probably about 30 to 40 folks here at the foundation. And the foundation was created to kind of add the additional ancillary services to help people stay employed and build up their skills. So
job training, job placement, that sort of thing.
Yes. So we provide workforce development training to the residents of Southwest Yonkers or anybody in the county who can make their way here. We provide, occupational training, essential life skills training. We have 12 community gardens throughout Southwest Yonkers run by an amazing coordinator there. Again, all about social capital, all about bringing people into the community and supporting them. But particularly with the workforce development piece, it's about getting folks, credentials, nationally recognized credentials, so that they can get into an entry-level position in an emerging industry that provides a nice career pathway. And very proud to say that, the work with our team here, our folks are getting placed at average wages, 27, 30% above the minimum wage, just over $16 an hour.
Is the goal for, Greyston Foundation, Greyston Bakery, is the goal, I guess somebody could stay employed there, right, for as long as they want, but is the goal to kind of, refine their skills or build up their skills and open up some other opportunities and have them move on? Or is this a career job, should somebody choose to stay with Greyston Bakery or Greyston Foundation?
Yeah, I would go back to the mission. So our mission is really, how do we unlock the power of human potential? And we do it through inclusive hiring. So there's our open hiring model, but it's been going on for 40 years, but it's also through getting folks with these same barriers of employment trained, getting them job ready so that they can be placed into jobs. And it's one person, one job at a time. If you want to stay at the bakery for the rest of your life, that's fine. We believe in path making. Everybody's on their own path. If that's the course you want to take, that's great. But if you want to work after 2 years, 3 years, and you say, you know what, I'm looking to do something else, tell me about some of these other trainings that are offered at the foundation. Love to take them so I could get a credential and do something else. We want to make that available to you as well, because it's all about just unlocking that human potential. Because like me, I didn't find my place. It took me a while.
Yeah, that's right.
To find out where I wanted to go. And everybody's on a journey, and everybody's learning as they go through their career. We just want to make the tools available, and we'll invest in you if you want to invest in yourself.
I find it amazing, again, that it's in Yonkers. You do baking and distributing, what'd you say, 40,000 pounds every day?
40,000 pounds a day.
What does 40,000 pounds look like? Do you
It's
send them do you send them by train? Do you send them by truck?
yeah. So we have a pretty nice transportation operation, but when you think about being part of the global supply chain of
Yeah.
Unilever, so this is going to North America, it's going to Europe, and I wish we had a video you could show you just the edge and half edge inclusions that go into the ice cream, but it's incredible to see. Well, maybe I'll shoot you a video so you can see it, just how everything works.
Yeah, I'd like to see that sometime. And I have firsthand experience with the brownies. We purchased the gift packs that you guys have.
Yes, and thank you for that.
Yeah, and we gave them out to our team and our clients, for the holidays, and it was a wonderful product, and it was very well received. And it's a nice package, so I'm going to encourage our listeners to take a look at it if they're looking for gift giving ideas. Thank
and
you.
We have regular and we have vegan options as well. Our latest flavor was the vegan birthday cake blondie, so that's my personal favorite.
We had those in our the gift pack that we bought. There was definitely vegan options. I don't remember if it was did you say birthday cake? I remember
birthday cake blondie.
Yeah.
Was the chocolate fudge vegan. Yeah.
That was excellent. So, well, thank you. Thank you for that intro, and thank you for telling me about your past. So, in keeping with the format of the podcast, Better, Faster, Stronger, I'm going to ask you, 3 questions. What's made you better? What's made you faster? What's made you stronger? You can give me answers as they relate to your personal career or the organizations that you've worked with. So, we'll start with the first question. What have you done in the past or now that has made yourself or the organizations that you've worked with better?
Yeah, I go back to just my career path. Like I said, it seems a little circuitous, but in each of those different positions that I had, I learned about sales, I learned about the private sector, I learned about government, I was exposed to the nonprofit community, and you learned about different types of people, particularly in the government area where I'm dealing with all different types of socioeconomic levels and issues and challenges that folks are having. In my personal life, whether it's with my church, I did a lot of service in areas where they were, really challenged economically environments. All of those different experiences have taught me something about just policy, whether it's government policy, economic policy, education. You see how everything is intertwined, and you also see how, particularly where I am now dealing with poverty and employment and inclusive economy, you see how complex the system really is and how there really is no one solution to it. And I understand that much better now, having had all those exposures and seeing how all those things interplay. But I also appreciate how there's no one solution to this issue of poverty. And our contribution to that equation is employment. But keeping in mind, there are other things in play that also have to be addressed, whether it's culture, education, criminal justice system. There's just so much going on.
Yeah, pretty complex.
It's
a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, it's complicated. It's just complicated. It's not that there's no solution. It's just like there's not one solution. So that's made me better in terms of understanding that. So when you understand that, you don't try to get too overwhelmed. One thing I do say to the team is, like, we're not trying to solve poverty. We're making a contribution to the solution, because no one entity can solve poverty, but we're going to do what we can as an organization, leveraging our strengths.
I like to use the term boil the ocean. You can't boil the ocean.
Exactly. You really can't. You really can't.
We'll do little sections. We'll pick something that we can, define what we're going to address and what can we do today that's actionable. How can we measure some results? And then when can we move on? You want to keep that up and running and learn from that experience.
Exactly.
It's kind of interesting that you ended up at Greyston, and I think what you said has made you better, I think, is part of the mission of Greyston, right? So, I mean, everything that you've done in your life, you're learning the skills, you're gaining assets that can help you contribute to whatever the problem is. And I don't think that there's just one solution, to doing that. Like you said, a lot of complexities, and being in those different positions, you gain that different perspective, you learn different knowledge, you get different viewpoints from different perspective from other business leaders, other leaders in the community. And over time, I mean, it does just make you better, right? And I know that that's a bit of an ambiguous term, better, but clearly it's working, and it's what you guys do at Greyston as well. So, they start with, maybe a basic solution, gainful employment and something where they can contribute. And then they're learning skills, not only on the job, but also through the foundation where they're gaining some other skills. They're, like you said, life skills, maybe it's some tech skills, maybe it's interviewing skills, whatever it would be to help them move on to the next opportunity, whatever that might be. So.
Yeah. And one of the things we found, even as you were talking about, like I said, the job is the first step, but we've also learned that there are other things that folks need to be successful. So there are other things going on in their lives that may prevent them from showing up to work on time, or even if they do show up, can't be fully present and productive. So we arranged to have a relationship with Westchester Jewish Community Services, which is one of the largest mental health service providers here in this county, WJCS we call them. We actually have a social
Where are
worker.
you based out of?
They have locations throughout Westchester County.
Hmm.
White Plains area is where the base is. But we have a social worker that works for WJCS that sits in our bakery and also supports our foundation clients as well. And that person's job is to make other connections, non-traditional HR connections. So if dealing with eviction issues, housing issues, transportation, childcare, whatever it might be, it's that person's job to help you sort through those issues. Because if there are issues going on in your personal life that's preventing you from being successful on the job, we want to know about it, because that only makes you better and stronger, going back to your theme here, but it makes us better and stronger too. So it's a win-win situation for us, and that's something we've been doing for the last 6 years or so to support our employees. And I truly believe that's kind of the next evolution in HR, particularly as we go through this pandemic and all the social unrest.
Yeah, and I think the term that you used, to be fully present, to be at work is one thing, or to be, even in your family life,
Mm-hmm.
to be present is one thing, but you need to be fully present. You have to
Yeah.
be engaged. And, I've heard that people feel that the most successful, the most empowered when they can be fully present. And, even in my own life, sometimes you're going about a task and maybe you're distracted by something. It's because you're not fully present in that.
Yeah.
So that I understand the importance of that, having to address those issues or work through those issues, to really be better in the moment.
Yeah, and bring your full self to work too. So it's
Yep. So moving on, obviously the pace of business and life is fast, which will bring us to the next question. What have you done to make things go faster, either in life and I'm not saying, reckless breakneck pace, but, obviously we want to be efficient and we want to be able to accomplish things. So what have you done, whether it's in the bakery or, other portions of your life, that you found some traction and have been able to get things done faster?
My wife will tell you this, my board members will tell you this. I have an issue with patience. So moving fast is not it's not an issue for me. But I got to tell you, when I was first appointed president and CEO, talk about fast, at the time, by design, we went from an executive team of 7 to 2 when the pandemic hit. So it was myself and my VP GM at the bakery kind of running the show, the two of us.
What happened that you went from 7 to 2?
We were in the midst of restructuring, and we're still going through that process now. So it was rebuilding the executive team. It was building out our board. 2 people running this organization at a time when we didn't have a playbook for what was going on. We had to be fast because the situation required us to be fast. We had to figure out how we're going to protect our employees together. Great collaboration of the bakery and the foundation level. We had to come up with protocols for when we were eventually going to bring people back into the foundation, because a lot of our folks were working remote. The bakery kept going 24/6, but some of the foundation employees were working remotely for obvious reasons. So we had to come up with a plan to bring folks back, and when they came back, how are they going to be safe? So that was one piece of it. So just the challenge of the times just kind of made us all rise to the challenge and move fast. But it was also about building out my board too. We went from 12 members to 19. And all new members, really diversified the board in every sense of diversification, different experiences, male, female, people of color, expertise being brought to the board. If I was appointed in April, we had a new board in place by June.
Wow.
So
you were moving fast, that's for sure.
And again, it was by design because I wanted to build out the bench strength, both from the board perspective, but eventually we built out the executive team too. So we now have 4 members, all in place now, thank God. Again, going from 7 to 4, but it's more streamlined, more effective, so better decision making is taking place. And again, that was by design because we're still in the process of transition, becoming a one Greyston organization, melding the 2 organizations so that we're collaborating more, talking to each other more, storytelling is more consistent, we're sharing information across the bakery and the foundation so that, I believe you can contribute to Greyston, whether you buy our brownies online at greyston.org, you can contribute to Greyston by donating to our foundation, you can volunteer at our foundation, or you can do all the above. And that's the way we want to communicate and make those options available to anybody in Westchester or across this country. So, that I had to move fast because you want to get this organization to the point where it's unified. We have the right structure, we have the right vision, we have the right mission. We'll have a new mission statement too coming out in the next couple of weeks. And new core values will roll out as well. That's all about getting this organization to where we know it can be and leveraging our strengths, which is employment, inclusive employment at that.
So clearly you can get things done fast, but would you have any tips in regards to, how do you get that much done in such a short period of time? Is it you're setting the priorities and setting a deadline? And I know you made mention of patience, but I think it's more setting the expectation, right? So if you can communicate to somebody, this is what we need to get done, this is a time frame that we need to get it done, these are the action items I need you to complete, and is there anything that I can help you with? Is there anything that's unclear? I don't want to tell you how you did it, but I'm just curious, how were you able to get that much done in such a short period of time?
I had the luxury of already being here. So I was already here for 2 years when I was appointed. So I had a pretty good sense of the end game. So I knew where I wanted to get to. But again, going back to my prior roles, especially at Pepsi and other places, is I had that sense of urgency. I had a 100-day plan. In 100 days, I wanted to do this. Have the executive team in place, have the new board in place, clear metrics across all of those. I think they had given me 3 to 5 new board members by the end of December, and we had 7 by our June board meeting. So clear vision of where you want it to go, and then kind of working backwards. Here's where I want to be by Q1. Here's where I want to be by Q2, Q3, Q4, and the metrics in terms of what does success look like was very clear, and then just communication and collaboration. Just so folks know exactly, working with my board, working with the exec team and the staff below, just here's what we need to do to get done. I mean, once you have that vision, once you have the steps and the metrics, it makes it a lot easier. So folks know what the different milestones are as we move along, and also just having that sense of urgency, like it's gotta happen. We can't waste time because this is what we need to do in 2021, and here's where we need to be in 2022. So, and we just went through this whole exercise. So with my board a couple of weeks ago, we did a virtual strategic planning offsite, talking about, what's the big 10-year vision, and then what's the 3-year strategic plan, and then what's the annual action steps we need to take to realize that 10-year vision. So we've put all those steps in place now because we have a very bold and ambitious agenda for where Greyston should be in 2030.
So you made mention of a 100-day plan. Is there anything special about that number 100, or is that just something that you picked up somewhere? Or that's a concept that you came up with?
It's FDR. I think they came up with the 100-day plan.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. So it was something that I worked on with the board. Yeah. So it's just something I worked on, and presidents do it all the time too. In the first 100 days, I want to do this. There was really no magic to it, and even if any number I throw out, I'm going to try and beat it anyway. So if it's 100, I'm going to try and do it in 50. It's just it's who I am.
It's just the way you're wired, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
just lack the patience to wait.
So I think when you have that much, if I have a couple takeaways or a takeaway from there, if you have that much to do and that much to accomplish, it helps again to break it down into smaller chunks. This is where we want to be in 3 years, and in 3 years it can even be a little foggier, right? But getting down to this is where we need to be in 1 year or within the next quarter, the next 100 days or whatever it would be. I think you have to have real clear vision on where you need to be, certainly in the short term while you're working on the longer term. And I suspect that longer term is fluid, right? It's always changing because you're making those plans based on the information that you have at that moment. Yeah. So, and I also like the fact that it seems like you act right away. So I'm certain that you weren't afforded the luxury of saying, okay, team, let's sit down together. Let's get this 100% right before we're going to make any plans. To use the term analysis paralysis, that could happen.
Yeah.
You have to act. You have to change the tires on the car while it's going down the road. And it sounds like you're able to do that and are doing that now.
Yeah, and the one key lesson throughout that we should have learned from the pandemic is you also have to, even though we might have the best laid plans, you just have to be flexible and be ready to pivot. Because I think almost most people I speak to, that everybody was working on their strategic plans in like February, March of 2020, and then threw them out the door in mid-March. So it's like, okay, well, got to change, and we did that too. I mean, we a lot of tight expense controls, and I was reaching out to donors and other folks to just make sure the revenue continued to come in, but we also had to tighten up as well. So you have to learn to pivot. You have to learn to change your plans based off of what you've already laid out. But it's good to already have a plan in place to change, so that you at least know where you were trying to go and what you might have to do given the new landscape. But flexibility and being able to pivot is something that folks should have definitely learned from this last year.
So moving on to our third question, what have you done over the years that has made either yourself or your organization stronger?
We lived through this. I think that's what's made us stronger. We know that we can lead. We know that we have a great team that is able to rise to a challenge and succeed. And even at the early parts of the pandemic, I sent an email out to the staff, talking about, Greyston has seen several recessions. We've seen 9/11. We've seen, this pandemic and all of these different challenges that Greyston has confronted, and we rose above it. Not to say that there wasn't any anxiety or frustration or aggravation, but through all of those things, from minor recessions to great recessions to pandemics, we made it. And it's because of who we are. It's because of what we're all about. And you should take strength from that, to know that, we have it in us to see these challenges, meet them, and work our way through them. And I take strength from that. It's the fact that we are still here, again, the fact that we haven't lost one employee due to COVID, you can't help but get strength from that.
Yeah, so it's amazing, obviously, and this is right, you're just talking about Greyston, but I'm certain that you've seen it in, other parts of your career as well. When you're going through it, it's not always easy, So, but after you've done it, if you're early on in your career, you probably don't have that confidence, and, you're dealing with all these issues, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, how am I ever going to get through this stuff? But you do it, you're a great leader. You count on your team, you boost your team, you remove roadblocks where you can to help everyone move forward, and you get it done. You chip away at it and you get to the next level, and then eventually things calm down. So it's not smooth sailing. It's not, this linear growth, and, it's always easy and things are going in the right direction. I mean, in business and in life, there's always going to be setbacks. And with time and dedication and confidence in yourself, and certainly experience, you can get through it. That too will pass, the challenging times, to set yourself up for the next opportunity and the next growth period.
And it's also learning to just draw from the past. Like I said, Greyston has survived many challenges before, but even looking at some of our employees and our clients, they're survivors too. If you hear some of the stories that some of these folks have been through, where they're in prison for 20 years or something and come out to not being able to find a job, but somehow, even though they might have made some wrong decisions, bad decisions in the past, they made it through somehow, and they changed and turned their lives around. And now there's this amazing transformation taking place, because they might have taken some knocks, so you probably got knocked down, but you got back up.
And then you move on. Right.
And now here you are. So take strength from that, because you survived it.
Yeah, it doesn't define you,
and you learn from it. And you learn from it.
Situation, and then you move on. Great stuff. So the last question that I want to ask you is, if you could, knowing everything that you know now and all the experience that you have now, if you could go back to yourself in the beginning of your career and give yourself one piece of advice that would have served you well over the last 20, 30 years that you've been doing this, what would that piece of advice be?
It's a tough question, but it's not a tough question. Like I said, I don't regret my experiences. I didn't stay in one path and one career. I would say to myself, enjoy the ride. Even though you know, you may not like this job, or you may not feel like this is, you know, where you want to be in life, but there's learnings from all of this that, you know, enjoy it. Just continue to learn from it and not take yourself or the situation so seriously, because at the end of this, you know, what you've experienced and what you've learned is going to serve you well in the future. I had a friend that I think it was at Pepsi who would always say, I don't have bad experiences, I have learning experiences.
Yeah.
And the experience is only bad to the extent you don't learn from it. So take all of those experiences and just learn from them and apply it to whatever you might end up doing in the future, because it's going to serve you well. Just enjoy the ride.
I think another way of looking at that too is, you ever hear the expression, life is what happens while you're busy making plans for other things, right? So, you know, that life that's going on while you're making these other plans, enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking some time today to share your perspective and tell me what has made you and the organizations that you've worked for better, faster, stronger. We've learned some great information, and looks like it's a nice day outside. So
Yes,
get outside and enjoy some of the sunny weather. And thanks again for joining us. And I'll do what I can to get the message out there for Greyston Foundation and Greyston Bakery, because really you guys are running quite an organization. They're very impressive. And I'm going to try and spread the news on what you guys do, and hopefully gain some visibility from my efforts.
Yeah, folks could just go to greyston.org. We'd love to have you join us on this journey. And I've enjoyed this conversation. It was great to be with you. And thank you for your time.
Well, thanks again. And be sure to tune into our other podcasts at www.bfsmetro.com. Thanks, Joe. Have a great day.
You too. Have a great weekend.